One Piece revolves around our perceptions of morality, giving us a wide, varied spectrum of protagonists to root for, who have all chosen different paths to walk in a morally complex world. There are altruistic soldiers who uphold an unjust system, pirates who are simultaneously kind-hearted and selfish, and yet among these various protagonists, there's notably only one actual hero in the entire series. A character Oda has been saving for the finale of the story, whose time has finally come to take center stage: Dragon. The only character who doesn't just claim to pursue justice, but actually chooses to walk the impossibly difficult path that must be traversed to truly achieve it. To understand the significance of what Dragon represents, we're going to be breaking down how Oda divides all of his other protagonists into two morally flawed categories, with Dragon existing as the sole exception, the lone hero who creates a third category of protagonist on his own. But before we get into it, make sure to subscribe. But first, if you want to use a high-quality VPN for less than $3 a month, Surfshark is offering that deal to my viewers right now. Surfshark VPN is the sponsor of this video, and in case you don't know what VPNs are, people are using VPNs these days whenever they're online, since it's become a necessity to prevent your data from being stolen. And VPNs like Surfshark also allow you to change your location online to anywhere you want on the globe, to get access to lots of movies, TV shows, and live events streaming for free. For example, there are anime that are only available for free on Netflix streaming in Japan, but with Surfshark, you can just change your location online to Japan and get free access with the click of a button. And now, while most VPNs cost $15 a month, you can hop on the Surfshark deal right now and have a world-class, award-winning VPN that's only $3 a month, and you can keep it at that price for up to 2 years. And on top of that, if you follow my link, you can get an extra 4 months of Surfshark for free. All you have to do is go to surfshark.com/Morge or use code Morge at checkout for less than $3 a month and 4 extra months free. Follow the link, or you can scan the QR code below. So that aside, to begin with, we have to examine the fundamental problem of the One Piece world and why Dragon is the only, yes, the only character to ever actually try to solve it, which is what makes Dragon the only genuine hero in the story. The world of One Piece is run by a dystopic government that has two crucial elements that make it extremely difficult to be a hero in this world. First, the dystopic government that rules the world is extremely, absurdly powerful. There aren't many fictional stories where there is such a vast disparity between the power of the ruling force versus the power of other factions. To really get a picture of what I mean, the world government is so absurdly powerful that the true ruling powers at the top, the Celestial Dragons, almost never even have to actually engage in combat themselves to fight any rebellious force. The most powerful rebel factions, the Yonko, are effectively kept at a stalemate just through the forces of the Celestial Dragons' proxy military, the Marines. It's implied that if enough Yonko banded together, then they would be able to topple the Marines, but that's about it. The Marines, as we've learned, are just level 1 of the Celestial Dragon's power. The Celestial Dragon's true forces are the Immortal Gods Knights, the Gorosei, and the seemingly unbeatable god of the world, Imu. And on top of that, they have weapons that can wipe out any faction they want at the press of a button if they so choose. A simple illustration of the true power of the Celestial Dragons is what is happening in Elbaf right now. In the span of about 30 minutes, Imu and the Gods Knights instantly created an army out of thin air that is exponentially more powerful than the entire army that the Emperor Kaido spent literal decades slowly building. The idea of actually trying to defeat the world government and the Celestial Dragons is seemingly a genuinely impossible task. Even the strongest factions are aware that they have little chance getting past even the basic marine forces before having to contend with the powers of the gods at the top. But the other primary issue with the world government is that they aren't blatantly dystopic, and not everything they do is evil. In fact, for the most part, they actually do try to maintain a peaceful and harmonious world for the citizens. It's generally only when people step out of line or don't properly pay tribute to the Celestial Dragons that they are punished. But for the average person in the One Piece world, the far more prominent issue on a day-to-day basis is not the world government, it's pirates. We, the reader, of course, feel outrage at the world government for incidents like Ohara or the Celestial Dragon hunting competitions, but it's easy to forget that these same type of incidents are actually committed with far greater frequency by pirates. The Big Mom pirates casually wipe out entire nations on the regular for trivial reasons. Kaido's commanders are literally labeled calamities because of the absolute destruction of civilizations that they leave in their wake. Even weak pirate crews raze entire islands to the ground and massacre its citizens the moment those islands are not protected by the Marines. Pirates enact genocide of races and enslave innocents just like celestial dragons, but on a much more widespread scale. So the bottom line is, while readers tend to hold more hate towards the celestial dragons and the world government than we do towards pirates, that's likely because we subconsciously hate the hypocrisy and propaganda of the world government claiming to be good and claiming to represent justice while secretly being so evil. Whereas when we the readers see pirates committing all of these terrible acts of genocide and slavery and so on, we just take it for granted that of course pirates do these sort of things. But if you consider what's actually happening in the One Piece world, the main suffering that the citizens of the world are experiencing over and over again is not really from the world government. Yes, the genocide of Ohara is a terrible event, but it's also a rare occurrence, which is why it's referenced as a notable event so often. Even the celestial dragon hunting competitions only occur every 3 years. But what the citizens do experience constantly over and over and over throughout every corner of the sea is pirates terrorizing and massacring innocent people week in and week out. Consider how many civilizations in One Piece get Ohara'd every time Big Mom feels like having a tea party. So the problem is that while the world government at its core is dystopic and does make people suffer, it is nowhere near as much what the pirates of the world do, which in turn then allows the world government to get to play the role of savior by providing protection to the innocent people of the world from said pirates. And that right there illustrates the second major issue with rebelling against the world government. The world government is actually providing a very important and absolutely necessary good for the people of the One Piece world. The fucked up part is of course that this rampant evil that the people need protection from technically only exists as a consequence of the world government's rule in the first place, but we will get to that later. So now consider how these two issues, the fact that the world government is realistically impossible to overthrow no matter how strong you are, and the fact that the world government does actually provide a crucial and extremely necessary good for the people of the world, creates an extremely unique dystopic setup that makes moral decision-making a lot more complex than in other stories with typical totalitarian governments, where the good guys just have to rise up and fight back. Because let's say you're a good person in the One Piece world. Let's say you genuinely want to help people and protect the innocent citizens of the world. The simple reality is that what is killing the most people in the world, the terror that the average person is suffering from day to day, is not the world government, it's pirates. This constant onslaught of murderous criminals, many of whom are superhumanly powerful monsters. The simplest way to save as many people as possible is to join the world government's military force, the Marines, to fight pirates and protect the people. Again, we the reader are biased because the truly bad Marines are the ones that stand out to us, but most Marines are not like that. Most Marines join because they actually want to help people, and it is in the Marine Corps that you have the most resources and unified troops to defend the common man against pirates. Now at some point in your journey as a Marine, you likely realize two things. First, that the world government actually does some really bad things too. They will also kill off citizens and even take citizens as slaves. And second, that the way the world is, with all these evil pirates roaming around, is likely because of the world government's oppressive system that causes people to break away from the law in the first place. Now here is where your dilemma comes in. You want to save as many people as possible, and technically the way to do that is to overthrow the world government, thereby freeing everyone from injustice and also ending the system of oppression that leads to pirates, creating a new, better world. But we've already established this route is realistically impossible. No one can do it, it's essentially unfeasible. You could attempt to fight the entire world government and die without changing anything or saving anyone, or you could accept the reality that the world order cannot feasibly be overthrown and instead stick to the route that functionally leads to saving the most people, which is just by remaining in the Marines and fighting pirates. Yes, in doing so, you are technically upholding the system that causes all of these problems in the first place, but this ultimately becomes a matter of debating principles versus reality. Attempting to fight the system would be morally good in principle, but in reality leads to no positive outcomes, as it is not realistically possible to defeat the world government. In reality, Siding with this government and working with the system, while morally uncomfortable, does allow one to have practical positive impact of working to save as many lives as possible. This is the type of dilemma that characters like Garp and now Kobe face, and they've both so far ultimately chosen to simply continue on the route that saves as many lives as possible, which is working within the Marines. Here, I also do want to take a moment to address a common growing rhetoric among readers, which is that all Marines are bad. This rhetoric is likely piggybacking off the popular real-world sentiment that all cops are bad. But that's not really analogous. The thing is, the Marines don't represent cops in the One Piece world. Islands all have their own cops and internal police force. The Marines in One Piece aren't really police. The Marines represent the world government's military in that they defend each member nation against external threats, aka pirates. And in this sense, the Marines are pretty much the hardest working military imaginable. They are literally in a never-ending war against countless hordes and hordes of armies of supervillains that are constantly trying to genocide entire islands. Saying all Marines are bad isn't really like saying all cops are bad, it's more like saying all soldiers are bad. And I think saying all soldiers are bad is a less common sentiment in the real world. I think in the real world, people still generally respect veterans, people still generally respect soldiers who are injured in combat or who gave their lives in combat, and so on. And I'm not saying that the morality of being a soldier is black and white, that's its own whole discussion. I'm just saying that, for example, even if you strongly disagree with your country's government, you probably still acknowledge to some degree that your country does at least need to have soldiers and a military so that you don't get, conquered by outside forces. So if you apply that same logic to if you were in the One Piece world, the only thing preventing every man, woman, and child in your island from being murdered, raped, or turned into slaves by the Beast Pirates are these Marine soldiers who are risking their lives fighting against these literal monsters. So I imagine you wouldn't be sitting on your high horse saying that actually this guy Kobe who saved my family is a piece of shit because he is a cog in a system that perpetuates a cycle of yada yada yada. Characters like Garp and Kobe do understand the issues with the system. They do their best to separate themselves from the evils of the organization, with Garp refusing to work directly for the Celestial Dragons and Kobe being a member of SWORD. And at the end of the day, they devote themselves to the good side of what the Marines do, which is saving countless innocent lives from pirates. Nobody is claiming that they are morally innocent for working with the world government, but they are ultimately good people doing the best they can to help others in a system that seems impossible to change. Now on the other end of the spectrum, you have the quote-unquote good pirates of One Piece. Figures like Whitebeard, Shanks, and Luffy. These characters pose a different moral issue from the quote-unquote good Marines. Whereas the good Marines can be morally critiqued for taking part in an unjust system in their devotion to protect innocent lives, the good pirates can be morally critiqued for their indifference to the problems of the world. Emperors like Whitebeard, Shanks, and Luffy possess tremendous power, and it's true that they don't support the unjust world government, but at the same time, they are not heroes, as they don't use their tremendous power to help anyone outside of their personal circles. Each of these figures has made it clear that what matters to them is the people in their circle, their friends, and their personal allies. And yes, they will go to extreme lengths for the sake of their friends, but only for the sake of their friends. In many cases, they may take the stance of, the friends of my friends must also be protected, but that's as far as their kindness goes. It's altruism, but with a clear, defined limit. Now, because we read the story through Luffy's eyes, and we are moved by Luffy's drive to protect his friends, we often end up placing these good pirates like Luffy, Whitebeard, and Shanks as somehow more morally respectable than characters like Garp or Kobe. Because the primary virtue we are repeatedly being shown is how important it is to protect your friends and not side with authoritarianism. Completely ignoring the other side of things, which is, what if you don't just want to help your friends? What if you want to help all innocent people, but that comes with the cost of working with authoritarianism? Luffy's actions aren't morally that commendable. Indifference to extreme human suffering outside of your own personal friend group, when you have the power to easily help many others, doesn't make you a hero. And Luffy himself is aware of that. Consider that at this point, Luffy's combined forces of his core crew, his gigantic subordinate fleet, his numerous powerful allied nations, his access to multiple world-changing ancient weapons, all together makes him by far the most powerful force on the seas outside of the world government itself. Luffy could do so much good with a force like this. Hell, he could be declaring more islands as free from the world government rule and under his protection right now. Or he could be taking in islands that have lost world government support and become ravaged by piracy under his protection right now. Luffy could literally be saving millions of lives this very moment. But Luffy does not give a f*** about any of that. He's prioritizing his own adventure above anything else. Unless, of course, one of his personal friends is affected, and then all of a sudden he gives a shit about using his power. I'm not saying Luffy is a bad guy, of course he's not, but he's definitely not a hero. Oda wanted to make that clear, and if we were to put Luffy into analogous real-world terms, considering the power, influence, and resources that Luffy wields, Luffy's real-world equivalent would be something like an ultra-billionaire who basically doesn't ever donate to charity or impoverished nations and only ever uses his resources to help people in his own personal friend circle when they are in need. We would kind of consider that person to be a piece of shit. Again, not saying Luffy is a piece of shit, but he's definitely not that morally great. He is selfish in many ways, and he knows it. That's what makes Luffy such a unique main character to follow. He will eventually save the world and everyone in it, but it will be through him choosing it as his own preferred path, not out of some moral responsibility as a hero. So stepping back, let's look again at the state of the world. The evil system that rules it is logistically impossible to overthrow. At the same time, it technically does a lot of good. So if you're a good character in this world with a lot of strength and you want to help people, then point number one can make it such that it's just too much to fight against the system, and therefore you realize you have to work within it to help people. On the other hand, if you're a good character in this world with a lot of strength, but you don't care that much about helping people, then you probably wouldn't work within the system, but at the same time you probably don't put in that much effort into trying to overthrow the system either, because, well, what's the point? Overthrowing this system is extremely difficult, and you're not actually that interested in saving people outside of your own personal circle. Both groups can be critiqued for different reasons, but there is one and only one character in One Piece history who is a true traditional hero archetype. Someone who basically says, I want to save as many people as possible. I want to save the entire world, and I don't care if the challenge to accomplishing this is literally impossible. Dragon started off as a marine wanting to fight for justice for the common man, but quickly of course learned the injustice of the system he was actually working in. He decided to leave the system rather than support it, but instead of f***ing off to be a pirate like Whitebeard Shanks or Luffy, sailing around, drinking, partying, and taking care of your friends, but generally letting the rest of the world suffer, Dragon became the only character who remained determined to pursue his original goal, to create a just world for people. No matter how impossible overthrowing the world government was, Dragon had more conviction than characters like Garp or Kobe, in that he genuinely believed he could topple it if he tried hard enough. And he had more heart than characters like Whitebeard Shanks or Luffy, who only extend their protection to their own personal circle. Whereas Dragon decided that his circle is the entire world. Every citizen needs to be saved. This is what a traditional hero looks like, and what makes Dragon unique among all other good characters in One Piece is that he is the only one who has this combination of both morality and conviction. For example, Kuma is an extremely morally good, kind-hearted character who wants to save people as well. But as Kuma grew up, his scope was limited. He focused on helping the people of his little island, and that's about it. Until Dragon came along, Kuma never thought about changing the actual world. Literally no character in One Piece did. There was no Revolutionary Army before Dragon. Every Revolutionary Army member only joined because Dragon gave them something to join. But none of them would ever independently be trying to start a revolution to free the world. You might argue, well, what about Rox? Rox tried to overthrow the world government, and that's true, but Rox wanted to become king himself. He wasn't freeing the world, he was just making another monarchy. Dragon's goal is genuinely to create a better democratic world, one that does still have a world government, but a government that truly functions for the people, without the Celestial Dragon's oppressive ways behind it. So really think about the magnitude of what Dragon represents. In this gigantic cast of characters, all of them existing in this unjust dystopia that breeds this cycle of evil that the world suffers from, there is literally only one man that stepped up and said, I am going to change this for the sake of the people of the world, and I'm going to dedicate my life and all my strength to doing so. While every other quote-unquote great pirate and marine balked at the thought, Dragon alone decided that he would rip down an impossibly tall mountain brick by brick. to bring the dawn to the world, and while he slowly drew people to his side to help him, he started off alone. But first, if you want to get One Piece's beautiful islands for your walls, you can get any 2 island posters and get another 2 free and free shipping on our brand new site, OneDreamStudio.com. And this month, we're also doing a huge giveaway. If you win, you can get the complete Island Posters collection for free. All you have to do is head over to the link below and just give us some feedback, and you will have a chance to win the complete Island Posters collection for free. The giveaway ends on September 16th, so sign up now. The winner will be drawn on stream. And we know how much you all enjoyed the Island Posters, but we've got something even bigger for you around the corner. What we've got next for you all is something you're not going to find anywhere else. Stay tuned. And to date, it's still funny that people critique Dragon for not saving Ginny, as while I elaborate on that in far greater detail in this video, of course Dragon didn't save Ginny, because the point is that Dragon gives a shit about more than just his personal circle. His priority is the world first. Everyone in the Revolutionary Army exists to save the people first and foremost. This isn't a cutesy little pirate crew that puts themselves and their friends as the only priority and sticks a middle finger to all other suffering people. Why would Dragon prioritize freeing Ginny from slavery over all the other slaves that already exist in Marijoa that Dragon is already working to free? The entire point of what a revolution against God entails, as Oda spelled out for us very plainly hundreds of chapters back, is that soldiers in a revolution should expect to fall in battle, because that's what they signed up for. It's not about saving each other, it's about saving everyone else, something greater than themselves. It's the same reason Dragon isn't all buddy-buddy with his subordinates the way Luffy, Whitebeard, or Shanks are. Dragon chooses to remain distant, an enigma. He's not close to them, he doesn't share details about himself, because it's not about his relationships or bonds with his subordinates. He cares about something greater. And lastly, the most impressive thing about Dragon's story is that when I say it is realistically impossible to overthrow the world government, I genuinely mean that. That is the point. No character can ever build an individual force strong enough to overthrow the world government. Even Luffy's final, complete allied forces on their own will never be that strong, because we know that the world government will be defeated in the end through a culmination of factors. We know it won't just be Luffy's army, or Dragon's army, or Blackbeard's army. It will be thanks to the stacking of miracle upon miracle all coming together at once. The birth of numerous children of destiny all in the same period of time, all coincidentally rising up in the same era independently to rebel, the Nika fruit coincidentally being reawakened after 800 years by the successor of Joy Boy, the ancient weapon Poseidon reawakening, Momonosuke's arrival in the present and opening the borders, the world's smartest man suddenly choosing to reveal the truth to the entire world, so on and so forth. The point is that it's no individual's actions or plans, and no individual faction that will bring down the towering monolith that is the world government. The fall of the heavens is only going to be possible through a perfect storm. 800 years of destiny finally aligning with a million things outside of any one individual's control falling into place. We know the revolution will succeed, but it won't just be because Dragon built an army and planned for decades. A lot of genuinely miraculous assistance will have to come together to aid Dragon that he could never have accounted for, and it's only thanks to that the revolution will succeed. And that is the beauty of it. Dragon initially embarked on what was essentially a suicide mission to free the world. A battle that from the start was genuinely not winnable, as it is simply not possible in a single lifetime to amass a singular force large enough to defeat the gods. But because Dragon embraced this challenge of the impossible that no one else in the world dared to do, fate is going to reward him for his grandiose conviction. The stars will align for all these other countless pieces outside of Dragon's own control to fall into place to aid him in this revolution to bring his dream to fruition. And the most important of these heaven-sent pieces will of course be his own son. So let me know in the comments below what you look forward to seeing the most from Dragon in the final war, and if you enjoyed this video then definitely like and subscribe. And if you want to hear the surprising role I believe the revolutionaries will have in the final war, then you can listen to my podcast that just dropped by becoming a member or by supporting me on Patreon, link in the description below. And make sure to get your amazing deal for Surfshark VPN for less than $3 a month and 4 extra months free, link in the description below, or use code MORGE at checkout, or just hit the QR code.